professional development workshop of the underprepared student, and it's part of our pedagogical idea exchange, which is pie. So in each one we serve pie. So if you're not here and watching this on YouTube, you could be having pie. So I'm handing this over to our chair of the Faculty Teaching and Learning Subcommittee, Emily German.
Yes, as Lynn said, today's topic is underprepared students, and our presenter is Tom Cho from the Counseling Department. Take it away, Tom.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, let me say thank you again for inviting me to present on the same topic as I had a chance to present last year. Where I'm coming from today is that I wanted to really set up a disclaimer up front that this information is in no way a panacea to address every single issues of underprepared students. However, what I'm hoping for is that it will give each one of us a foundation to think about certain information as far as when we are working with our underprepared students. The beginning part of this presentation is to give you some statistical data as far as who are our underprepared students, what are some of the characteristics, what are some of the barriers and challenges of underprepared students. Then we're going to go right into a theoretical framework as a foundation to work with underprepared students. The last part of the presentation is that I will cite a couple of specific techniques as well as tools that is being used and will be presented in a week or so at Cerritos College by Professor Kathleen Gabriel. She published a wonderful book, and the title is really Teaching Unprepared Students. So I encourage you, if you have an opportunity to go next week, please do so and participate in the workshop. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and go through the statistical data very quickly here. As you can see, based on the Legislative Analyst Office for the California Community College System, this is pretty overwhelming for me. And this was done in 2006, 2007. Now the numbers actually could be higher. But the breakdown of our basic skills students, 40% are Latino, 20% white, 20% Asian, 10% African American, and then 10% are not self-identified or self-reported. Now, how does this information related to us at Long Beach City College specifically is if you look at the second part of this slide, this was gathered, the data was gathered as part of the visiting team on basic skills, and we have been hearing it all along within the last couple of years, is that 80% of our students coming in are coming in at the college level or basic skills level. Less than 35% of them has the skills for language arts, and less than 20% of them has the skill for math. So as you can see, it's pretty much representative of the information coming out of the California Community College System LAO office. Now, how can we define underprepared students? Should we try to define underprepared students? I think what I'd like to do right now is I'm going to give you a handout, and if you could take a few minutes and we're going to go back real quick because I want you to have an opportunity to really come up with a definition for yourself. What do you think, in your own definitions, are characteristics, personality profile, as far as basic skills or underprepared students? Now, throughout the presentation, I'm going to use the word exchangeable between basic skills and underprepared students because I think it goes very well together. But that's just, I wanted to make sure I said that as well. So if you could take a few minutes and write out in your own definition the definition of underprepared students. Okay? Now, before I go further, let me give you a little bit about my background. I was one of those underprepared students. My definition of underprepared students are those students who lack the basic skills in reading, writing, students who are having to adjust to a new educational system, to a new environment. So I pretty much can understand some of the characteristics of underprepared students. So with that in mind, if you don't mind sharing with the group, what are some of your definitions of underprepared students?
A student not ready for college in terms of academically prepared and emotional intelligence.
So lack of preparation and skills, as well as emotional skills. Anybody else want to share?
I'll share just some of it. I went very basic down to last knowledge of multiplication tables when asked. Student hands in assignments either in print or handwriting that is similar to that of a 4th and 5th grader and uses language in sentences at that same level.
Okay, thank you.
Lacking the cultural dynamics of a college campus. The fact that, they're not in high school, there's no bells, you're expecting them to get them to where they need to go. 9 o'clock class, there's no, clock around, and I have no watch. And do you mean I really have to assume responsibility for that on my own? And you didn't remind me about my homework. And why didn't you tell me? I know you passed the handout, but you didn't expect me to read that, did you? So not reading the materials, not being prepared to be acclimated as an adult on a college campus.
I wrote down financially challenged.
Say that again?
And financially challenged, because many students think that it's a given, once they come to college, that it will be taken care of, everything will be paid for, and they can come in at the last minute, and all the money is supposed to be there, which is supposed to be there, and they just have to come in and everything will be given to them. And all of the rules and regulations that they need to understand and know in order to be successful in college will automatically be, kind of given to them right away there. And if there's anything lacking, then it's not their responsibility.
Anybody else? Well, let's go on to the next slide here, because there is really no one simple definition of underprepared students. In general, what the LAO office is saying is that underprepared students basically are those lacking basic reading, writing, and math skills. And I think that's the first thing that will come to our mind as faculty members, is that those are our underprepared students. A lot of time we don't think outside of that, as far as there might be other factors involved that can contribute to the students becoming underprepared. It will be considered as barriers or issues that these students will have to be confronted with. Okay? Bottom line is that they are not ready for college level work due to prior knowledge, due to some basic fundamental skills. It could also be unrealistic beliefs. Time and time again, many of our underprepared students, they are undeclared. They're really not clear as far as what their vocational or academic goal might be. So we need to keep that in mind as we work with our students. Now, here are some characteristics of underprepared students. And we already said that by going through our definition. It's very diverse, underprepared students, diverse in age, socioeconomic status, previous academic performance, okay, standardized test score, as well as emotional health. What I found is so interesting is that if you look at bullet point number 2, is that a greater proportion of underprepared students share the same what we call non-cognitive characteristics of first-generation and minority students. That is something that we want to also keep in mind. Beyond the lack of inefficient or beyond the lack of necessary skills to be successful, but we will also want to take a look at some of what we call non-cognitive characteristics of these students. And then, of course, bullet point number 3 is that there is significant amount of data out there that will support that underprepared students have more difficult time to connect with the college environment. Whether or not do they know how to do it is a question we also have to answer. But beyond that is that do they have enough what I call background information to survive in college? Do they know what the proper college etiquettes are? Because I don't know if these students are learning any of that coming out of high school. And if we have a returning students coming back, I know for sure I didn't learn it throughout my high school. So some important characteristics we wanted to look at. Now, from a development and learning framework, what I did this time is that I pretty much just want to leave one learning theories up here because I want us to be aware of this. This is what we call the constructivist theory. Okay. What's important in here is that it really reaffirmed every single pieces of literature that I review and the type of data that I have seen. What that is that student learners, there's no one simple way to define our student learners, just like the definition of underprepared students. Each student is different. Each student will have a different learning style. Each student will have a unique needs and backgrounds. Financial needs, for example, that's very uniquely to each of our students. And if we want to help the students, we need to make sure that we foster an environment that students can take an active part in the learning process. Because without it, underprepared students will have much more difficult time to adjust and to really make sense of the learning process. Okay? And so this one right here is very important in our developmental courses. Students will need to see the values of what they're learning in the class and related to the context of the subjects. Okay? Now, by saying that, if you look at the issues and barriers of our underprepared students, these are some of the definition that you came up with just now. There are exactly the issues and barriers of underprepared students. Again, inadequate information, inability to read, write, technology, truly lack the frame of reference. Okay. I'm coming out of high school, so tell me what I need to do. That's all I need to hear from you. Don't tell me anything else. And then they hear it, and then they say, that doesn't make sense. Then they move on. Okay? Without truly any kind of learning process will take place with that. Unrealistic expectations, unrealistic attitude. I thought number 5 and number 6 is quite interesting. Underprepared students, they might not say it, but the majority of them have a very low self-esteem. Okay? And they really don't have the necessary foundation, the foundation of support at home to encourage them, to motivate them to go on and finish when things get really tough. Okay? The knowledge of awareness to plan ahead, paying attention to deadlines, such as when I should drop a class without being penalized for it, when should I drop a class without getting a D or an F or without getting a W in my transcript. Okay. What exactly is a transcript? Time and time again, we will have questions like that. And then number 8 is the feeling of disconnected from the campus environment. If you go back, think back a previous slide, couple previous slides, is that the age for underprepared students, okay, they're pretty much in the median age of 24, older students. So that will have a lot to do with the disconnection from the campus environment. Many times community college students like ours, they come to campus, they take classes, and then they leave without having the time to invest in it and get connected with the campus. So the next part of the presentation is what I like to go into is really building up that theoretical framework. understanding our students a little bit more from what I call psychosocial development and student development theories. Okay. The first one I have up there is really the person-environment theories. Based on the characteristics, based on the definitions, what we want to do is that making sure that students, mostly underprepared students, I should say all of our underprepared students, they should have a sense of connection to the campus environment. The person-environment theory is basically stating that when the student is connected with his or her environment, the greater chance for them to be successful here at the college. How can we integrate that into our mode of operations? That's the difficult question. Should we make it part of class activities for students to go out there and find out more about support services or resources like the Success Centers or tutorial service that they can get more help at the beginning and get connected with the campus environment? Should we include that on our syllabus as one of our required activities or required assignments? Should we go over that the first day of class or spend a lot of time within the first week of class? Maybe we should, because then the students will feel more connected with the environment. And again, based on these theories, it will give the opportunity for the students to building a stronger bond with the environment. And they will feel more connected, they will be more committed to their goals. And the bottom line is they know how to reach out and get help. Because right now we have so many different sources or support services and support resources for students, but what percentage of our students are actually taking the self-initiation to do that without instructor requiring them to go in and do it as part of extra credit or part of the assignments itself? Okay. The psychosocial student development theories, what I wanted to go over this part is that students, according to Chickering, which is our guru of student development theories, Chickering basically says that each student will develop through a different vectors. So there are 8 different vectors of development that students will go through. Individual students, including underprepared students, they will go through developing a competence such as the area of academic, intellectual, personal, and at each of those stages of development, we as faculty members can have a significant role in helping them to develop those vectors. Because once they have successful at one resolution, they will be able to go on to the next level. Because if they feel disconnected at the beginning, students are not going to be able to learn and grow and continue on with their developmental stages as college students. So these 2, or actually 3 of them, and then of course many of us have heard of Vincent Tinto. Vincent Tinto has stated about this theory of departure. We find that a lot of time basic skills students or underprepared students, they take one basic skills course and then they leave. They might not be successful at that basic skills course, and then for some reason they leave. Is it because they were overwhelmed with the content? Or is it because of the fact that they don't know how to be a college student? That, we're waiting to see what the college has as far as the data will be coming up that will be presented hopefully next fall. I know there's a class data, which is there's a leadership group that's working on to collecting those data. So as campus-wide, I'm looking forward to see it and hear about it next year. Okay. Now, if we go on, there are more psychosocial theories. This is one of my favorites right here, and I apply this in my day-to-day operation as a counselor. This is a theory called challenge and support. What Nevitt Stanford is basically saying to us is that when a student comes in and he or she has experienced a lot of challenge and does not get enough support, guess what? Learning will never take place. Learning cannot take place if there's not a balance between challenge and support. The reverse side of that is that I'm teaching a Counseling 1 class this semester, And I would say 20% of my students this semester are those students who got accepted to the University of California or California State University. And because of some reason they cannot afford it, so they're coming in and they're sitting in my class and they're having one of those attitudes that this is just too easy for me. Okay, so it's not challenging enough for them. So last night, I basically had a group of students that all they did was texting on their phone. And these were younger students. So I talked to them after class. And basically the information I got was that, well, you know, Mr. Toe, the information is not challenging enough for us. We get too bored. We already know about all this stuff. Okay? So can you give us something a little bit more challenging? So that's the reverse side of working with students that are non-underprepared students, I should say. So this is why I use this very much so in everyday practice. This is my foundation. I always wanted to keep in mind, is there enough challenge and support for the students? We know right now underprepared students, most of the times that they are very much prepared and they're overwhelmed with information. They might not show it to you that they're overwhelmed, but guess what? They might be overwhelmed when you have an opportunity to talk to them one-on-one. Okay. Transition. This is Nancy Schlossberg. Again, mattering. Making students feel like they matter. The first week of class, according to Kathleen Gabriel, it's very important that instructor, we need to make students feel like they matter in our class. Because that's when you can start developing a relationship between faculty and students, and possibly student to students in classroom environment. Okay. And then when the students feel validated, they will develop a higher self-esteem. They will believe in themselves more, and they will stay more focused, and they will achieve their academic goals. Maybe not as fast as we want them to see or what we're hoping that they will do, but eventually they will do that. Okay. So with that in mind, here are some institutional strategies that's already in place that can help underprepared students. And I just listed some of them up there. Learning community is actually one of a very good model that will help underprepared students to be successful. Right now, I don't know where we are currently at our college with learning communities. So I hope that each one of you will have an opportunity to talk to your colleagues about it, advocate for learning communities. What are learning communities? There are different models of learning communities. But the bottom line for learning community is this, as far as how it works so well with underprepared students, is that you will have a faculty and students relationship right away because you work together as a cohort. Faculty will know exactly what's going on with the students, and the students will know what's going on as far as what the faculty are expected. It's a cohort environment. Okay. The curriculum is very structured, meaning that faculty will communicate with each other. Most of the time it's once a week, sometimes it's twice a week, to coordinate their curriculum and make sure that they're covering the subject matters related to the context and how does it work with the students. Students, they will have a greater chance to establish that network of support as well as other resources, and then there will always be a counselor involved that can work with the instructional faculty to address personal issues and barriers and hinders to our students. But the bottom line for learning community is this. It does foster a greater chance for student engagement. If you look at Long Beach City College logo right now, if you turn to the front of your handout, the triple E's, currently our college basically is saying that we need to educate our students, we need to engage our students, and then we need to empower students. I recommend for you to change that. Okay? Because my recommendation is, if I have my choice, is that you need to change it. You need to engage our students first before you can educate our students, and then you can empower our students, especially our underprepared students. Because without engagement, students are not going to be able to learn. Regardless of how good the student is or how bad the student is, but student engagement will go a very long way. So learning communities is a perfect venue to promote that. What other institutional strategies? We've been working on it for the last 4 years now, is mandatory assessment and orientation. Because if you as a faculty will have access to students' assessment, you will have a better idea which one of your students in class might consider as at-risk students. So if you're teaching a class right now and you have access to a student assessment score, and the student is placed at reading 880, which is like 8th grade level reading, then you want to be able to, or then you should be able to change your teaching pedagogy to make sure that you address those students as well. So mandatory placement testing, as well as orientation. Students can go through and benefit the information from the orientation. They will find out all the support services available to them. This, I believe it is coming. The Student Success Committee right now has a separate work group at our college that's looking at recommending placement of prerequisite or recommended courses on most of our courses here. So for example, I'm hoping in the future, classes like Political Science 1, which is our introduction to American government, should have a recommended preparation or prerequisite of certain reading level. Classes like Sociology 1 should have a recommended preparation or a prerequisite for students to be at a certain reading level. Because if we don't, what we're doing is we're setting ourselves up for students' failure, and much more so for underprepared students. Okay? When students going through orientation, such as our underprepared students, we always tell them to focus on reading, writing, and math. But the problem with that is that, are we giving enough budget, or is our budget big enough to cover more developmental courses? So what students will do is that they try to get into a reading, they try to get into a writing class, and guess what? They can't get into it. So what's going to happen? Because of financial barriers, they need to make sure they get in 12 units so they can get enough financial aid to support their educational goal. They're going to end up taking classes whatever they can get into. And then we find out, well, your percentage of success is very small because you place at 8th grade reading and you're taking classes like Sociology 1 or Learn 11. So those are the kind of things that I want us to think about, and we carry this message forward. Intrusive and consistent counseling, and then important instructional and support services in a different methods, in a variety of methods to help our underprepared students. I'm talking about underprepared students, but if you think about it, all this information is applicable for our whole entire student population if we do it right. So this is more specifically related to teaching. I call this section the instructional and curricular strategies. Roush and Roush, back in 1993, did a research and made a presentation, and with supported data said when you teach developmental classes, it is very important that you can connect the subject with the context of what the student is learning. So if you're teaching a reading class and you assign students reading materials, can they identify with the story of what they're reading? Can they make that connection to their real life situation? And if they cannot, can we teach them how to make that connection and how to make it more meaningful in their lives? Just like my class right now, I can't seem to provide them enough information as of yet for them to connect what they're learning in my class, which is about transfer program right now, to their real life situation. And I have to admit, I don't know why yet for this cohort. Every semester as we teach classes, those of us who are teaching classes, we know that each cohort is different. And I am having one of those cohorts this year or this semester that regardless of how much I try to cover and relate the subject matter to the context, they are not getting it. And they are not getting it because either they're having too much of a challenge learning the information, or it's just too simple for them and they don't want to learn it. So it goes back to that whole challenge and support again. So I need to take a look at the survey I did at the end of the class last night, and I can change it, hopefully changing some of the assignments that I will have for the remainder of this semester. But going back to specific strategies, okay, the more you can connect the subject to the context, the better it will be for our underprepared students. Collaborative learning and experiential strategies, this is pretty much the gist of this book, is that Professor Gabriel truly believed in collaboration and turning what she's called a faculty center and education into a learner center education environment. Okay. And then faculty and peer mentor, this is another way for students to get that opportunity for engagement. Working together with their faculty, don't be so afraid of coming in to see your instructor. Some students feel quite intimidated to go and speak to their instructor, especially our underprepared students. Then they give you an attitude. They have an attitude not because they have an attitude, they have an attitude simply of the fact that they don't know how to approach their instructor. So what that means is that they just don't know how to start up a dialogue. So they rely on what we call their prior knowledge, learning how to communicate with an instructor. If I have a student come in with an attitude and trying to communicate with me based on his or her prior knowledge, I'm not going to be able to communicate with them. So we need to keep that in mind. Again, is to break down that activities and how we can engage our students a little bit better. This is a very basic, fundamental, and these are the principles that Professor Gabriel has suggested for your teaching underprepared students. Now, if you ever have a chance to read this book, I suggest for you to do it, as you can see all my notes. And if you get a chance to go to Cerritos College next week, I'm looking forward to join you there. And because I really do so looking forward to hear what she has to present. Okay. What Professor Gabriel started out with is that she said every institution will have a mission statement, right? Every college, every university will have a mission statement. Every department, every division should have a mission statement in working with students. She said that as faculty member, we should also have our own mission statement as far as how we work with our students. So what she suggested that is that there are certain guiding principles that she has built into her teaching method and her teaching pedagogy, and she's practicing it. And now she's going around and sharing this information with other faculty members. These are the basic principles for her. And I think a lot of us, or many of us, already know this, but do we actually put it in the forefront when we're developing our syllabus or when we start talking to our students the first week of class? Okay? Basically what she's suggesting is that all students, especially underprepared students, they can become lifelong learners. Changes require commitment. Students must accept responsibility for their learning progress. And number 4, she actually stated this, but then she has a caveat in her book. And I wanted to share this with you. Basically what Professor Gabriel is saying that us as faculty or professors, we should never do for students what students can do for themselves. After she listed that, she put it in parentheses. However, when working with underprepared students, you might have to teach them first before they can do certain things for themselves. So for example, if you put it on your syllabus, okay, tardiness, absences, don't show up to my class late. If you're 10 minutes late to my class, you will lose point as example. But then she went on and said, well, do students really know what that means? Meaning that, yeah, they read it, don't show up to my class late, but do they know how to manage their time effectively so they don't show up to the class late, especially underprepared students? When they schedule their classes, do they take a class over at LAC and give them half an hour to come over here at PCC? You can say that on your syllabus, don't be to my class, don't come up to my class, don't show up to my class late, but do they know how to do that? And that's her point right there, is that in the 4th guiding principles, she said that we don't want to do certain things for students that they can do for themselves. But at the same time, when working with underprepared students, we need to keep that in mind so we can teach them first. And then they can do things for themselves. So, guiding principles for Professor Gabriel. One of the ways that she has listed in her class, and I like this because it's very simple. We can do this the first week of class, and I'm almost done here. So, basically, the first day of class, what Professor Gabriel suggests is that share a mission of success. What is the definition, your definition of student success for your class? Do you share that with your students? I know sometimes I have to admit, I am so rushed and going through the first day of class, taking roll, making sure students are there, dropping students, taking on petition cards, doing all that stuff the first day, and then I go over my syllabus. I might have a comprehensive, detailed, welcoming syllabus, but because of all the things we have to do the first day, we might not be able to get to it. What she's saying is that focusing on the first week. If you only meet once a week, then focus it on the first 2 class meetings, because then you will have more time to spend with the students. Okay? Accountability, high standard, and expectation of appropriate behaviors. She said you need to focus some time as instructor and as professor to let students know that, especially underprepared students. Enforce policy on no-shows and late ads. Okay? I know many of us are already doing this, but what she's pointing out to us is this: underprepared students. If you know they are underprepared students, you know that by the 2nd class, they already miss a whole bunch of information, and they might not be able to catch up at all. So she said, rather than admitting those underprepared students and give them a late cards, don't set themselves up for failure. Tell them to go take it next semester. Okay? Because if you let them add the class late, they might not be able to catch it up. Okay. Number 4, identify at-risk students through early assessment and in-class reading and writing activities. This is something that I wish we could do at our institution. Now, if Ross was here, he'd probably say, because of FERPA, we all know about FERPA, right? What Professor Gabriel suggests is that there are certain colleges and universities, students will have to sign a waiver, basically saying that I'm okay with the fact that instructor and counselor and advisor can share among themselves my assessment test scores. And they sign off a waiver. Because if we have that policy here at this institution, if Emily's teaching a class, she can call me and I should be able to run a list of students who are in her class, and I can identify what their assessment test results are. And by doing that, we can start out early by identifying the potential at-risk students. And are they currently enrolled in the reading class right now? Are they currently enrolled in the writing class right now? Okay. Are they on the verge of probation? We can work with an instructional faculty between a counselor or an advisor with an instructional faculty at a 4-year university. And they're doing that right now at certain schools and colleges. So I am hoping, I'm going to talk to Ross about it, we'll see if that can be done. Okay. This is also very important. Regardless of how you feel about learning outcomes on the syllabus, what Professor Gabriel is saying is that when you prepare your syllabus, you need to do some pre-planning. Because on your first day or during your first week or first 2 weeks of classes, you can go over with students specifically, what are your course goals? What are the outcomes? What is the philosophy of the class? And when I first read that, I thought, well, maybe, we have different issues right now with learning outcomes, what we should do or what we shouldn't have been doing. But however, if you think about this, if you go over with the students the first couple of days or the first couple of class meetings, this is my teaching philosophy. I don't believe in lecturing 50 minutes long. That's just way too boring. Okay? My teaching philosophy is that you will work with me together collaboratively, and we will learn together through the process. These are the learning outcomes, meaning that at the end of the class, you should be able to do all these things, or you should be able to demonstrate all these things after you have taken my class. Along with that, you also will go over the class policies. So you have a section on your syllabus as far as students' responsibilities, but you also have a section of responsibility based on yourself as an instructor. So I didn't think much of it, but then the more I read her book, it makes sense to me. Okay? So I know some faculty members already have learning outcomes on their syllabi here. Okay? Others might not yet, but we'll see how far that's going to go. Okay? The last one is that she suggested that you want to introduce a learner-centered education and available resources, and then you need to address what are the expected behaviors. Okay? In your handout, I typed up actually on a Microsoft Word version. This is actually a specific tool. Based on the evaluation I got from last year when I did this presentation, I got feedback that you need to provide us with something we can leave with so we can use it right away in our class. This is one very specific tool that Professor Gabriel cited in her book. It is a tool called Semester Performance Prognosis Inventory. It was designed by Dr. McGuire. And what it is that is a list of expected behaviors in the form of a statement. And students can answer true or false, and then they will score it themselves. And based on the score range, it will tell them these are the expected grades that the students will get at the end of the class. So if you look at what's presented to you or included in your handout, you can revise it and you can make it work for your own class. Okay? So I thought that was very helpful. It's a quick tool for us to use, and we can use it at the beginning of next semester. And that way, students will have at least a very clear definition or very clear expectations as far as what we want from them. Okay? And it will also give them an opportunity to look at the expected behaviors if they want to get an A in the class. And if they don't want to get an A in the class, and if they don't know how, then we can start working with the students by providing them with the necessary supports and resources for them to be successful. Okay? So in closing, I just wanted to say again, thank you for the opportunity to do this, and I will be happy to send you the PowerPoint version of this because I didn't want it to print out too many pieces of paper and kill the whole tree or whole forest. But I do believe that we as a college, we're moving very slowly, but we are heading in the right direction. We just do need the collaboration between faculty member, and I meant this instructional and non-instructional faculty, along with the district, which are the administration, with our staff, and then we don't want to forget our students, because we can do this if we can engage the students, we can educate them, and we can empower them. Because without it, we're going to continue to operate in the status quo. And my time here is still short. I still have a long time to go before I can retire. So this is my home, and I hope that we can, together, we can have some input and further dialogue and discussion. We can move forward with this. So thank you very much. I do have all the books. So if you want to come down and take a look at what they are. Yeah.
It was about the population of underrepresented students, and I think it was defined as students
that the
over
statistics?
24 female. Yes. Students over 24 female.
Well, that was the first slide, wasn't it?
It was a little bit further away. Is it in female?
The characteristics.
Characteristics.
Okay.
Yeah, that was rather surprising to me because I've been doing some studies about underrepresented students, and there it is, yeah, a greater proportion of underrepresented students are the age 24 female, share non-cognitive characteristics of first generation and minority students. And because then the second half of that definition where it says minority students, yeah, we know Latino male and African American males are in that population, but typically it's males, and so I'm surprised to hear that females are quoted there, you know.
Well, my thought on this is that a greater proportion. So when you do any kind of survey or statistical collection at a college level, our student population are usually more females. And that could be the reason why this number was reported in that sense. And I did include this on the list of references, and you have the handout as well. And remember, this was provided to us in 2003, so this could change now. Yeah, I just happened to found this information, and I thought I just wanted to include it in this particular slide.
Thank you for clearing that
I
up.
missed that. What were you questioning, that it shouldn't be female?
Well, no, I was questioning, I was surprised that it was female because a lot of the
females.
literature you read these days say African American and Latino males. And I've been
Well,
doing a lot of.
women outnumber men in college. I
campus,
mean,
yeah.
you know, that's the
And that could
bottom line.
He cleared
that
that
could
up.
be the reason why it has a greater proportion.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I was going to suggest, I didn't read your book, but I love this in the back. Thank you for including that.
Sure.
But I think if people don't want to put number one as I will attend class, that it should definitely go into number two, because it's implied that you're going to do all this. But I would love to see like attendance, go over my lecture notes as soon as possible after attending the lecture or listening to the lecture. Because so many in the counseling one say, you take roll every day, Ms. Sandoval. Yes, I do. But our other teachers don't. Well, you don't be surprised if your grade is knocked down for participation and attendance. You know, some do, some don't.
That's true.
Because I caught somebody coming in after she said present, and then she decided she had a cell phone call, and she had to step out. She never returned. So when she came back, I kind of said, I need to see you after class, and the people said, ooh. And she looked at me and said, we just need to talk. And then they said, did you nail her? We knew she was, kids, students know, they know. And I said, I wasn't born yesterday, I know all the tricks. But yeah, I'd love to see attendance, because I think so many, we see that, Tom, in counseling, so many of them say, oh, I don't know how I got that D or that F. It's like, out of the blue, the teacher just decided to give it to me. And did you go to class? Well, yeah, but you know, they teach you, you know.
And that's why Kathleen Gabriel, she has suggested you spend the whole entire first week on it. It's really focusing on the syllabus, and that you make sure that your attendance policies and grading policy, as well as assessment, everything is in your syllabus. She also suggested that instructors should have a quiz about the syllabus. And I thought that was such a unique idea. I never thought about that. Is that if you want students to get into a habit of learning about the syllabus or syllabi in all their classes, we know if they follow it, at least it will give them an opportunity to do some of the work. But we never quiz them on it. So I thought that was a pretty good suggestion. Heidi, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I did. You had mentioned that currently because of FERPA, you can't exchange assessment test results, but that perhaps a waiver, one could develop a waiver. Is there something like that in existence? And could we, as a matter, could we develop one and just put it into our first day of class activities and have students sign and want to participate?
And I believe that we can develop one. I just wanted to make sure I checked with Ross, because he really is our officers in the FERPA. And so I wanted to make sure that we could do that. In counseling, at one point in time, he did give us an opportunity to do a waiver form like that. This was before transfer, unofficial transfer. So we cannot
We
give
have
out.
to have them sign it before we even
Right.
print it and like give it to them.
So,
But I think the greater issue, Tom's, you know, trying to be diplomatic, I'll come straight forward the way I usually am. I think you have to be very careful, and that's the other side of the conversation, is from an equity and discrimination, is how, we're looking at it as for the greater good, right? That we share this information kind of like in learning communities to assist the student. The other side would probably take the argument and say, well, what if a student says teachers were discriminatory, or use this to say I'm not allowed to try? You know, so we have to look at both hands, but yes, I think in the end, it's going to be Ross who's the designated officer at the college to handle.
Yeah, so I guess, doing first aid diagnostics ourselves would give us a lot of information that we might not get.
And she did cite that as well, Ms. Sandulo, in her book, is that the concern with the professor is that it depends on which professor will be looking at those assessment test scores. And will they have a perception looking at those assessment test scores? Will they treat students differently, or will they treat students all the same? But for learning purpose, I think it will help an instructor tremendously, because if we continue to do teaching pedagogy and exchanging ideas like this, it will help us as an institution. The bottom line is we want to help our students. We can't cite just a very small percentage of instructors who might use that against students, but I think in general, I would think overall, a large percentage of our faculty members will find it helpful if they understand it. Yeah. So,
I just wanted to say, I look forward to receiving your PowerPoint.
okay.
So you have our names on the list, right?
Yes, I'll be happy to send.
And that, what Gabriel, I like her strategies a lot, and it concerns me a little bit because during her presentation, you kind of touched on financial aid challenges that students have, and how students enroll into the classes, and it's a challenge for them because of budget restrictions, that they can't always get those classes, so their financial aid. Do you allude to something along those lines, or did I?
No, and I appreciate that feedback. That's something I can definitely incorporate under the barriers and issues.
Yeah. Because then later,
as a subject.
yeah, because later it was Kathleen Gabriel who said that when students come in, perhaps drop them because we're setting them up so that they can't succeed. If we take them late and they miss some information. So it's kind of like, catch-22 there, damn if we do, damn if we don't. But, because the students need the classes, but then if we bring them in, then they're too late. And, it's funny because I had a student in my office, and I work in financial aid, and the student brought in an ed plan from one of the counselors, and I said, okay, well, do you have class right now? She was like, yeah. I go, well, go ahead, go to your class. I'll look this over, come back and see me. She's like, no, I want to do this. And I'm like, no, you need to be in your class, listening to your lectures. And as people here on campus who work with students all the time, financial aid, all of our departments, our main goal is to help students succeed, And so when you have a student saying, no, I want to stay here in financial aid and find out, what about my Pell? What about my loan and things like that? And then they go to their class and they're dropped. And so that's what I was trying to bring across to students today, because a lot of times they don't understand the culture involved. And yes, you do need financial aid, but you do need to be in your classes. You need to be there all the time.
It's a catch-22 for underprepared students, more so for underprepared students, because underprepared students, I shouldn't say all underprepared students, but many of our underprepared students coming from a very low socioeconomic status. So they really need the financial support to go to school.
Right.
They can do everything right, but if we don't have enough developmental courses for them to get in, then they're going to turn around and try to find classes that will give them that full-time status. So that way they can be eligible for full 100% financial assistance. Okay? But what they don't realize is, and this is underprepared students, is that they don't realize the college etiquette or the college expectations of taking those classes. You still need to pass those classes.
Yeah,
And we
and-
still need to complete those
And
classes.
that's such a challenge, because then they come back to us and they say, I don't care if we don't get financial, I don't care if I don't get financial. I just want to be here in college, I just want to pursue this education. And we try to emphasize the importance of being in their classroom, being on time, you know, and punctuality and attendance, and then they come back and say, well, we don't care. And so it's kind of, you know, like I said, catch-22.
I understand the need that they must have financial assistance, many of the underprepared students. Well, do you think that we're doing a disservice when we drop them on the first week or second week when they don't have their tools, their books and so forth, as many, I know many professors do.
And that's the hard decision, and that's what Professor Gabriel addressed in her book as well, is that if you don't make a tough decision of encouraging the students to take a class in another semester, what you're doing is that you're allowing the students to start the class late, or starting the class without the proper tools to be successful. And underprepared students will have a little bit more of a challenge or a greater challenge to catch up with the subject matter of the courses. And so she addressed the issue very lightly, but she said that the bottom line is, if you make that tough decision, if you are firm about as far as tardiness, absences, as far as late add, she called it, then you will continue to improve and actually can help our underprepared students in the long run.
I don't know if I mentioned to you, Tom, this morning we had a chance to talk before you came on over. I came from a conference just yesterday at Cal State Fullerton. It's the first time I've ever heard anybody share this, not, brain surgery or anything. But the professor in the teacher ed department, who was offered from the Center for Teacher and Education, she's in charge of the child development major there. She said they've had a notorious year last year as well as this year with our community college transfer students coming in and dropping. And of course, they're very big on enrollment management, and everything's by cohort and sequencing of classes. So they come in, they start, they fall behind, they don't show for whatever reason. They come in and say, Professor, da-da-da-da, I need to drop the class. And that she wanted us to convey to everyone that mentality has got to change, the willy-nilly of dropping, because they don't go for that at all.
That's a
And it throws off the enrollment management per department heads and planning. Second, they don't add. When they let them in and they squeeze them in, they don't take care of business. So it's our mentality of late ads, dropping middle of semester. So I'm going to do a better job at really saying at the 4-year, you cannot do what you're doing here.
Yeah, especially because at the 4-year institution, once a student pays their tuition, they're not refunded.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's a
That
loss on
part
the
I
student's
don't know,
behalf.
but I
Yeah,
got her
but-
from the enrollment
but
management
that's so
part,
surprising
is
to
now
for
you
me
have
to
to go
hear
back
that,
to
because there's
cohort
a
one
big
again.
loss that the student take when they do that. I just think so.